In this demonstration, we're going to take a look at the General Ledger Account Inquiry Dashboard of the LSSe64 system. So we'll just go up here and click on Financial Inquiry, and a screen appears where we can look up account information. I'm going to pick an account for supplies. This is the one I want right here. When I select an account, down in the bottom part of the screen, we have sections for the current month, the current fiscal quarter through whichever accounting period we're in, and for the entire fiscal year. So we have things like the opening balance for the month, total debits, total credits, net monthly change, and the current balance in this account. The same information applies over here to the quarter and yearly amounts. Underneath these values, we have some simple charts to give you a bit of a visual of what's going on with an account. So, for example, in the monthly box, we have expense totals by day of month, and we can see that there's only been two days in which a transaction has occurred for this account number. On this day, a $15,000 expense was recorded, and a credit the following day, probably a refund of an overpayment, something like that. In the quarter period box, we have a graph showing total expenses for each week. And if you just hover your mouse over any of these bars, you'll get an actual value that bar represents. And then finally, over on the right, we have monthly totals for the current fiscal year. Now earlier I picked an account number, supplies, 4222. Underneath that you can see that the office field is enabled, which means this account number is actually controlled by Office, and so I could drill down and get the values, let's say, for just the New York office. So by selecting the New York office, now these are the balances for supplies in New York. Now we can also broaden the search or the display as well. So I could take out the account number and instead go over here and select an entire group of accounts. So we could go down to expenses, building, maintenance, under which my supply account is included. I'll double click on maintenance, and now we're seeing values based on the entire group of account numbers that belong under building maintenance. So let's go back to the original account we were working with. We can show you some more information. There's several tabs down here. Under the Transaction Detail tab, you'll actually get a list of all the transactions in this accounting period that affected the account number that's been selected. And you can actually double-click on any of these transactions listed here and get the full detail from the original transaction entry screen. Invoices, matters, account numbers, and so forth. Now while you're on the Transaction Detail tab, there are some basic search criteria available here where you can put in a date range or a check number or some words or phrases to search within the description of the transaction. If you're really having trouble finding a transaction, the best place to locate those sort of things is under the Financial Transactions function that we described in a different demonstration. But you have the basics here to narrow down this list. Then we have the Budget tab. Now on this page you will see by month any budgeted amounts that have been entered by the firm. The next column will show the actual amounts, a variance, and then a percent of budget. And we're looking in March of 2012, so we only have a few months worth of data out there so far. I could go back to, say, March of 2011 and get more of a full year view. And like the charts we saw on the Summary tab, if you just hover your mouse over any of these bars, you'll see the actual value displayed next to it. Let's go back to the current accounting period and take a look at charting. We'll take a look at this drop-down for a list of charts that are available. And if there's something you're looking for that you don't see here, give us a call and let us know. We're adding to this list all the time. I'll just pick a basic one here, values by month for 1 year. And the system is displaying monthly expense totals for this particular account for 1 year. And like before, you can just hover over any of the bars with the mouse and get the actual values for any month. Now, defaulted here to a three-dimensional view. Sometimes it's easier to view one of these charts in 2 dimensions, which is what I've done here. There's just a little checkbox at the bottom so that you can change that to suit your needs. And if you want to print one of these charts out, you just click a button right here, Print Chart. There are also similar charts that span over a 3-year period, 5 years, 10 years. There's a detailed actual versus budget. There's a prior year comparison to this year, sort of a side-by-side, prior 2 years. And then allocations by different things like account, department, so on. This particular account, supplies, is controlled by office, so I'm going to do an allocation by office to show you what that looks like. And you basically get a pie chart showing the breakdown of which offices contributed to the balance in this account. Now, when you're looking at these allocation charts, you get an option to choose a range. We're looking at the current month, but we could have it span for, say, an entire year or for 2 years. So at the 1 year, it's showing that Portland had $3,000 of supplies. New York used $5,100 worth of building supplies, and so forth. And just like I showed you previously, where you can pick an account number, or you can drill down to individual departments or offices, or select groups of accounts, that all applies to this charting as well. So whatever you select at the top will be applied to all of these tabs down below. And you can also just scroll through different accounting periods. So if we went back to a 1-month allocation here, we can just scroll from month to month and see the breakdown for each office. Let's go back to current. I'm going to show you one more account that has kind of a neat allocation to it. We're going to pick firm fees. Now, allocation by office shows just 100% because I don't have firm fees broken down by office. I do break down firm fees, however, by individual, or what we call a suffix code. So for that, I'm going to choose allocation by suffix. And here we get a 1-month breakdown showing fee allocations to each of the timekeepers. And if you don't like the 3-dimensional chart style like before, you can switch back to 2-dimensional and so forth. And then there's also an allocation by vendor. So if you want to see how payments are made for a given account by vendor, you can do that as well. So you can see it's really quite simple, and it doesn't matter how much data is in the system. It's equally efficient whether you just have a few records or millions of records. And there's plenty that we haven't showed you in this. There's reports that you can select, and for any of that information, if you're interested, just give us a call, and a project manager will take some time to show you a live demonstration where you can ask questions and get all the answers you need. Our phone number is 800-331-4122. Thanks for watching.